Valentine's Day is a celebration of love. It's a day associated with romance, intimacy, and the belief that human connection can protect us from loneliness. In Japan, Valentine's Day carries its own cultural weight. Chocolates are exchanged, expectations are quietly set, and for many people, especially adults, navigating modern life, it becomes a reminder of something they might not have. Companionship, marriage, someone to grow old with. But what happens when those desires are exploited? My name is Kevin O'Shea, and tonight on Supernatural Japan, we are not talking about yokai, spirits, or haunted places. Instead, we are examining something far more unsettling. True crime cases where love itself became the weapon. This is the story of Kanae Kijima, known as a Konkatsu killer, and Chisako Kakehi, remembered as the Black Widow Killer of Osaka. Two women, two different generations, and one shared method: gaining trust, exploiting intimacy, and killing men who believed they had finally found love. Kanae Kijima was born in 1974 in Hokkaido. Her early life showed no obvious signs of future violence. She was not known to be aggressive, nor did she come from extreme poverty or abuse. However, as she moved into adulthood, her life became increasingly unstable. She struggled to maintain long-term employment and accumulated significant personal debt. Socially, she lived on the margins. Those who knew her described her as intelligent and articulate, but also insecure and resentful. Over time, this resentment appeared to focus on men and on a society that placed enormous value on marriage as a measure of success. By the early 2000s, Japan was experiencing a major shift in how people searched for partners. Konkatsu, or marriage hunting culture, had become mainstream. Dating websites, matchmaking agencies, and organized social events promised solutions to loneliness, especially for middle-aged men who felt they had missed their chance at marriage. Kanae Kijima recognized an opportunity. She studied what men wanted to see. Online, she crafted a persona that emphasized traditional values. She described herself as domestic, caring, and eager to become a supportive wife. She spoke about cooking, housekeeping, and emotional loyalty. For men exhausted by work and isolation, Kanae represented stability and hope. Kanae Kijima's crimes unfolded slowly and deliberately, shaped by the structures of Japan's marriage hunting culture and the quiet desperation it often conceals. Between 2007 and 2009, Kanae met multiple men through konkatsu websites and matchmaking services. These were not casual dating platforms. They were spaces explicitly designed for people seeking marriage, and often under intense social pressure to settle down before it was considered too late. Kanae understood this pressure and tailored herself to it. She presented herself as a woman who valued stability, domestic life, and long-term commitment. She spoke openly about wanting to marry, start a household, and support her future husband. Men who encountered her described her as attentive, sincere, and emotionally supportive. Once the relationship began, Kanae worked to build dependency. She communicated frequently, encouraged emotional openness, and positioned herself as someone who truly understood her partner's fears. The fear of loneliness, the fear of aging alone, and a fear of social failure. For men who felt invisible or left behind, this attention was powerful. Only after trust had been firmly established did Kanae begin to ask for help. At first, these requests appeared reasonable. She claimed financial difficulty. She asked for small loans. She accepted gifts. And over time, the amounts increased. Victims were persuaded to buy her household appliances, lend her large sums of cash, or co-sign financial obligations. And many believed they were supporting a shared future as husband and wife. And as these relationships progressed, the men began to disappear. Between 2007 and 2009, at least 3 men connected with Kanae Kijima died under suspicious circumstances. Their bodies were discovered inside burned vehicles or storage units, with carbon monoxide poisoning listed as the cause of death. In some cases, fires had been set after death, destroying potential evidence. Initially, authorities ruled the deaths as suicides or tragic accidents. In Japan, suicide amongst middle-aged men is distressingly common, and these conclusions fit existing assumptions. The idea that someone seeking marriage might instead be targeted for murder was almost unthinkable. However, investigators later determined that Kanae had likely incapacitated her victims using drugs or alcohol, exposed them to carbon monoxide, and then staged the scenes to resemble suicide. The burning of vehicles and storage spaces appeared designed to erase forensic traces and reinforce a narrative of self-inflicted death. Financial records revealed a critical pattern. Each victim had transferred money to Kanae shortly before their death. Each had spoken to friends and family about plans for marriage, and in every case, Kanae was one of the last people to see them alive. And what made Kanae Kijima's crimes particularly disturbing was not just the violence itself, but how effectively she used emotional intimacy as a weapon. She did not force her victims. She convinced them. As Japanese media would later summarize, death that came from believing in marriage. Kanae Kijima did not kill in moments of passion or rage. She killed by carefully cultivating trust and then exploiting it. The case against Kanae Kijima came together slowly. As police reviewed multiple deaths connected to Konkatsu services, patterns began to emerge. Financial records showed repeated transfers to the same woman, and phone records placed her near or at the death scenes. And witnesses recalled her calm behavior immediately after the victims disappeared. When investigators re-examined the scenes, they found inconsistencies that suggested deliberate staging rather than suicide. Kanae was arrested and charged with murder. During questioning and trial, she showed a little emotional response. She denied responsibility and presented herself as misunderstood. In 2012, she was convicted of 3 murders and sentenced to death. While awaiting execution, Kanae gained further notoriety by writing a blog from prison. Her detached tone, lack of remorse, and mundane reflections deeply unsettled the public. In 2017, Kanae Kijima was executed by hanging. Her case fundamentally changed how Japan viewed online dating and marriage hunting culture, exposing the deadly risks hidden within modern loneliness. Well, hey there, everyone. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, remember to make sure you subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Leave a comment as well. It really helps. In the Supernatural Japan Valentine's True Crime Special, we've got another case for you. Chisako Kakehi was born in 1946 and lived most of her life in the Kansai region. She appeared gentle, polite, and unremarkable. Neighbors described her as quiet and grandmotherly. After being widowed, Kakehi began using matchmaking services designed for older adults. Japan's rapidly aging society has created a growing population of elderly individuals seeking companionship after the death of a spouse. Kakehi understood this vulnerability. She presented herself as kind and dependable. Relationships progressed quickly, often leading to engagement and marriage discussions. Financial matters were frequently addressed early, framed as practical concerns rather than red flags. Chisako Kakehi's crimes were defined by patience and calculation rather than sudden violence. Between 2007 and 2013, several men connected with Kakehi died unexpectedly after entering romantic relationships with her. Most were elderly, and many had existing health problems. In Japan's aging society, sudden death among older adults is common enough that these cases initially attracted little suspicion. And this was the environment Kakehi exploited. She met her victims through matchmaking services aimed at older adults, widows and widowers seeking companionship and security rather than passion. And these relationships often progress quickly, with practical matters such as finances and inheritance discussed early and openly. Kakehi presented herself as gentle and dependable. She cooked for her partners, cared for them when they became ill, and appeared devoted. To neighbors and relatives, she looked like a supportive companion. In reality, she was poisoning them. Kakehi used cyanide, a fast-acting poison that prevents the body from using oxygen. In elderly victims, cyanide poisoning can closely resemble heart failure. Sudden collapse, breathing difficulty, and cardiac arrest were easily explained as natural causes. According to investigators, Kakehi administered the poison by dissolving it into drinks or supplements that her victims consumed willingly. There was no struggle and no visible sign of violence. Death came quickly and quietly, often in familiar domestic settings. And Kakehi benefited financially from these deaths through inheritance money, gifts, and transfers made while the victims were still alive. Individually, the amounts were not always large, but together, they allowed her to continue moving from one relationship to the next. And what made these crimes especially unsettling was how ordinary they appeared. The deaths happened in kitchens and living rooms, not hidden or dramatic locations. They blended seamlessly into the background of aging, illness, and everyday life. As one Japanese headline put it, poison lurking in everyday life. And for years, Chisako Kakehi killed without drawing attention, because her crimes looked exactly like the kind of deaths society expects to see. Kakehi's crimes finally unraveled in 2013. Her husband collapsed and died shortly after drinking a beverage he prepared. This time, authorities conducted a thorough toxicology examination. They discovered cyanide. A search of Kakehi's home uncovered additional cyanide compounds carefully hidden. The image of the harmless widow collapsed overnight. During her trial, Kakehi denied responsibility and claimed memory loss. In 2017, she was convicted of 4 murders and 1 attempted murder and sentenced to death. She remained largely silent and never offered a full account of her actions. In 2024, Chisako Kakehi died of natural causes while still on death row, taking many answers with her. Kanae Kijima and Chisako Kakehi did not rely on brute force or visible violence. They relied on trust. They exploited loneliness, social expectations, and the deeply human desire not to be alone. And in doing so, they revealed something far more frightening than any ghost or yokai. The most dangerous monsters are often ones who promise love. This Valentine's Day, as connections are celebrated, remember that some of the darkest stories are not supernatural at all. They are human. Thank you for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you listen on Spotify, leave a rating and a comment. And don't forget to follow the show as well. On Apple Podcasts, a 5-star rating and a lovely review would be absolutely appreciated. That really helps other spooky history lovers find the show too. To see photos and headlines of these true crime cases, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Supernatural Japan and our awesome Facebook group as well. Links are in the show notes. Now, all of my social media links are in the show notes as well. And I'm always really active and posting lots of really cool things. Now, me, your host, Kevin O'Shea, you can check out my other podcast, Tales from Kevin, for a taste of life of a long-term expat living in Asia for many years. You guys can shoot me an email at any time at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. It's always amazing to hear from listeners. If you have great stories, if you have ideas, you just want to say hi, shoot me that email. Now, I want to end the show with a huge thank you to all of you for listening. Without you all, there'd be no point in making this show. I appreciate each and every one of you. Well, that's it, everyone. Be safe out there this Valentine's. And remember, you might never know what might be in that romantic drink you were just poured. Be careful.